What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer is now taking us in to Louisville, Kentucky. We are going to be talking about the Louisville Cardinals in this video. Made an ACC championship game in 2023, fell short of that last year, but this upcoming season, this is the team that feels well equipped to do what they did a couple years ago. My name is Nate Bove, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and for helping to support the channel. If you'd like to support the channel even further, then please do what it says below me. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. And again, while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell because turning on notifications will ensure that you don't miss an upload during prediction season. You especially don't want to miss your favorite team, now do ya? I'm a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of that industry. And if you want to see all the cool stuff I get to do while still getting an update on what goes right on here on YouTube, please give me a follow on social media, Twitter or X, whatever your preference, and Instagram. It's at TailgateNate29. You can even email me, tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting me and the channel by interacting with me and the channel any way you possibly can. And with all that said and done out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, let us talk about the Louisville Cardinals here in 2025. With your head man, the former quarterback with this program way back in the day, it's Jeff Brom. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on my Louisville Cardinals this year. Not that I particularly root for them, but this is the team that I feel like, could definitely be a little bit of a sleeper in the ACC, as there are some people that feel like this team might take a step backwards. Other people feel like they're taking a step forwards this year and a great contender for an ACC title. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we're going to go through a roster overview in which the offense is going to be to the left and the defense is going to be to the right. And at the end of the video, we'll go through the Louisville football schedule. I'll give it a preview and prediction, and I'll tell you what I think about the Cardinals in 2025. Before we get started, though, some numbers right below me. Returning production numbers are courtesy of ESPN. Those are the spring numbers. They do include transfer portal additions up to a certain percentage. Again, not sure how the exact formula works, but it spits out those numbers, give you an idea of some of the talent on this Louisville team. You can also look down below at the recruiting and transfer portal class of 2025 ranks. They are according to 24/7 Sports. With all that said and done, let us talk about the offense and your offensive coordinator. It is Brian Brom. So, the son of Jeff Brom, by the way, if you couldn't put two and two together. Tyler Shuck is going to be off to the pros. The New Orleans Saints are going to take a chance on the guy that bounced around a lot at college, but found a home with Louisville last season. 3,195 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions for him last season on around 63% completion percentage. Was there room for improvement? Yeah, definitely, but was a really good gunslinger for this team. And Miller Moss can be the same thing this season as well. Now, he had a little bit of an up and down campaign during his time with USC. While he was with USC last season, 2,555 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. I think that was all on around 64.5% completion percentage. But it's really, really funny how things work out sometimes, because Miller Moss, in trying to fill the shoes of Caleb Williams ended up sitting out of the bowl game against Louisville in 2023. And then what did Miller Moss do in his place? 372 yards, 6 touchdowns on 70% completion, only 1 interception against what was a really good Cardinal defense that year. And now Miller Moss is going to be playing for this team. So he had his coming out party, a moment where we looked and said, hey, this guy can be really, really good against Louisville. And now he's going to try to do that with Louisville. And I'll tell you, if he can put up numbers like that on a daily basis and fix a lot of the issues that he had at USC, so if he shines, Louisville is a very, very, very big threat in the ACC. Mark my words. And it's not only because of Miller Moss, especially if he excels, because there still is that question, is he going to improve from USC? He has to in order for Louisville to be an ACC contender. But it's the rest of the talent that surrounds this offense, which is just magnificent. Your backfield is going to remain intact, and it is at very least proven to go too deep, because you had one of the better running backs in college football last season, and he could be one of, if not the best, this upcoming season. He definitely is a guy that I feel like you got to throw in to that conversation. A 1,173-yard rusher, had 11 touchdowns and averaged 7.1 yards per carry. Come on, it's Isaac Brown. Behind him is Duke Watson, and he didn't necessarily put up higher totals, but his overall efficiency, man, he nearly averaged 9 yards per carry, got just about 600 on around 70 carries and 7 touchdowns for this team. You can even go one deeper than a duo. How about a trio? Kewan Brown comes back. He still averaged over 5 yards per carry, 243 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Kewan Brown last season. So you got a dynamic 1, 2, 3, and I think you can make the case on why they're one of the better running back rooms that we see across the country this year. As far as the wide receiver, well, you are going to be losing a couple of very notable pieces out of the wide out room. Most notably is going to be Ja'Cory Brooks. He is now gone. He is off to the NFL with the Washington Commanders, 1,013 yards, 9 touchdowns on 61 catches, led the team in all 3 of those major categories. You're also going to be losing a guy by the name of Amari Huggins-Bruce. Huggins Bruce. My apologies. Amari Huggins Bruce is also gone. Very experienced piece out of the wide receiver room, will be leaving this program as well. However, your second leading receiver does come back. That's Chris Bell, 737 yards and 4 touchdowns on around, 43 catches for him last season. No one else on the team, though, well, besides the running back Isaac Brown, had more than 30. Isaac Brown was right at 30. So there are a couple guys that are going to have to step up, and one of those, I think, has to be Colin Lacey. Now, his potential is absolutely through the roof. I absolutely love what Colin Lacey is about, and I think he is a really, really high upside player, especially when you look at what he did at South Alabama in 2023. 1,316 yards and 7 touchdowns on 91 catches. He gets back to that. Louisville's got a great 1-2 punch in the wide receiver room, and it doesn't stop there. You got a lot of transfers coming in. Dakari Collins from NC State's another high upside guy. Bobby Golden, Terrence McWilliams. I think this is going to be a really good wide receiver room for you, but where you start to have a little concerns with this offense is how they're going to replace the production out of the tight end room from last season, because their top 2 tight ends, that being Mark Redmond, who had 256 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Jamari Johnson, he is now over with the Oregon Ducks through the transfer portal, 158 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of production, but the tight ends were very vital to the Louisville offense last season. So Nate Horiski, hopefully I said that last name right. Apologies for mispronunciations if I didn't, especially to Nate. You got my first name. Nate, I'm so sorry. And then Jaleel Skinner will sit behind Horiski there as the backup tight end. Is it going to be as good as Redmond and Johnson? Probably not, but I still think you can see some solid production. And the way that I think you back up and sort of fill in what the tight ends did out of the receiving room last year is your wide receiver room has 3 bona fide weapons instead of 2. Last year it was Brooks and Bell. This year I could see Bell, Lacey, and Collins all being very vital pieces to the wide receiver room. As far as your offensive line goes, your starting center and both your starting tackles from last season are gone, but many talented transfers are going to come in and enter this program. Michaelan Pounders, Jordan Church, Nair Jackson, Michael Flores, and a couple of other names that will enter there as well. The first 3 of which I said are projected to start according to ourlads.com at left tackle, left guard, and right guard in the order that I did say their names. So you're still getting in a lot of really good transfers, pieces that I think are going to fill in nicely, and I don't think the offensive line will have too many major problems for you this season. Now, as far as the defense goes, let's take a look to the right here. 2 defensive coordinators will be called upon for Louisville this year. They're using, not necessarily the co-DC system, but again, just so happens you do have 2 defensive coordinators for this team this upcoming season. They are as follows: Mark Hagan, who is also the defensive line coach, and Ron English, who also coaches the secondary. So they're going to kind of be co-manning the defense this year. And look, it's quite simple. Pass rush over the past couple seasons, even though in 2023 and 2024, they had 34 sacks in each of the 2 years. Seems like a pretty solid number. There were a lot of ways in which they were inconsistent, and the pass rush is now being it's because this defense, specifically the defensive line and the pass rush, are going to be judged based off the expectations set in 2022. They, I believe, led the country, if not were second or very close to leading the country. They had 50 sacks that year. Now, that was before the Jeff Brom era. So, again, the Brom defense works a little bit differently. But if they can do everything that Jeff Brom has helped this defense do and get back to that pass rush level of production that's been inconsistent in both 2023 and 2024, that's just going to mean horrible things for offense that have to line up on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Now, you are going to be losing some really big pieces across this defense this year, and probably none bigger is a guy by the name of Ashton Gillott. Him, as well as a plethora of other defensive linemen that total 20 and a half sacks of production, are going to end up leaving the defensive line. Ashton Gillott last year had 4.5 sacks. I believe the year before that had 11 and a half. He was in the double figures, losing a really, really talented piece. He actually did lead the team in sacks last year, and just, again, a whole bunch of other production will lead. However, 4 transfers are going to get set for a lot of time, but Jordan Girard is going to be leading the returners here among defensive linemen this season. 22 tackles, 2.5 sacks for him last season, but again, a lot of defensive line transfers that are going to see some pretty solid time here. Wesley Bailey being one, Clev Lubin, Denzel Lowry, Jerry Lawson, and again, you still do have a lot of good returning pieces, none as good as Garrett's going to be at the defensive tackle position. Your top 3 linebackers, TJ Quinn, Shanquan Clark, and Antonio Watts, are all coming back in depth. This should not be an issue in this linebacker room. Again, Antonio Watts is the guy that's going to play that star position, so if needed, he can drop back, play a little bit of that secondary coverage there as well. Khalid Perry does come in as a transfer, but taking a look at what these 3 guys did last year, Quinn and Clark were your top 2 leading tacklers last year, totaling almost 160 of them between the two, just 2 tackles shy of that. And as far as Watts, 51 tackles himself. Each of them are able to defend passes, able to get back into the backfield. Should be a really good linebacking group for Louisville this season. However, this is, again, also where you see a pretty major problem. No defensive back with 10 or more tackles is coming back here to this team. So the entirety of the defensive backfield is, again, it's going to be overhauled, especially that starting lineup. It looks like this: Jabari Mack at your left corner. Opposite him will be Rodney Johnson. JoJo Evans, I think, is the most notable secondary transfer that comes over here. He's coming over from FIU, where he had a couple picks and 93 total tackles last season. And then opposite him in the safety room, you'll have Corey Gordon, Justin Ague, also transfers in, and you still have some experienced pieces: D'Angelo Hutchinson, Blake Ruffin, but they're going to have to play a lot bigger roles for you this season. As far as the special teams room, well, that's going to get an overhaul there as well. So a lot is changing on the defensive side of the ball. However, I do believe that Louisville's defense still going to be pretty solid this year. I think the secondary transfers will lock in and play well, and offensively, the talent surrounding the quarterback position, I think, is going to do its job. If Miller Moth shines, watch out for this Louisville Cardinal team. What do they do, though, in the 2025 season? Well, we're about to find out right now, because here is the 2025 Louisville football schedule. But before we dive on into this, I want to make you aware of some numbers right down below me, courtesy of FanDuel. No, not telling you to go place your money or anything like that. It just merely is taking a look at how good the odds makers think Louisville is going to be this upcoming season. Well, plus 800 odds to win the conference is tied for third. They're behind Clemson, Miami, and tied with SMU. And the plus 8,500 odds to win the national championship, really, based on some of the other teams we've done over the past couple of days, not that long of odds based on, again, just some of the other teams we have seen. That win total gets set at 8.5. And, well, I think they should get 3 of them right off the bat here. So Eastern Kentucky is that week 1 game. I really do not believe they are going to end up having much of a trouble with that at all. Again, Eastern Kentucky should be a very easy win for you. And sorry, had to fix the date on this game because it's not on Saturday. It's on Friday, September 5th. Had the date right, just didn't have the day right. So they're playing James Madison at home on a Friday. And really a very, very dangerous group of 5 team, right? They've been one of the most dangerous group of 5 teams over the past couple of seasons. 8-4 last year. They were pretty solid. I think they're going to see some improvisation this year, but wide receiver room is all new. Camden Coleman coming in at quarterback, some new defensive pieces, and I just don't know that they're going to be able to fully stack up to what Louisville is going to do this season. So I do like the Louisville Cardinals to win that game. this game here against Bowling Green after your bye week, I also do believe is going to be a win. Bowling Green is losing a ton of really important talent to them last season, most notably in the skill position room. Harold Fannin is now a Cleveland Brown, and then Terrion Arnold, I believe, has transferred that's a tight end and running back. New head coach there, Eddie George. Hey, the former Ohio State Buckeye is going to get his shot there at the power, or I'd say just at the power college football level. I believe was coaching Tennessee State for a little bit. So we'll see how well he does. But Bowling Green, while I still think are competitive this year, again, they will not match up to Louisville. Now, first game where I really think Louisville should be concerned here up on this schedule is this game against Pitt. Pitt, pretty solid team last season. They went 7-5 and absolutely a threat to do so again. You're going to have another year of Eli Holstein, and he should take a jump in the right direction. Desmond Reed is a phenomenal piece, and he, as well as Isaac Brown, might be one of the best running backs in the entire country, and he's just a dynamite stick in that backfield. He can rip off a big play literally just whenever he feels like it. Got some solid pieces coming back, led by Sincere Lee in the wide receiver room. Defense is going to have a ton of experience returning. I'd watch out for Pitt in the ACC too. This is going to be, I think, a very, very, very close game, and Pitt's going to give Louisville a run for their money. Again, there are just plenty of coaches across the country that you don't count out. One of them is Pat Narduzzi. I know he's had his fair share of disappointing years. This year, I think, is going to be another pretty solid one for Pitt. But again, I like what this Louisville team does. Yes, I know they're losing a lot, especially defensively, guys on the front line that could be able to slow down Desmond Reed, but I like all of their additions in the portal. I think they have some good, solid pieces here, and I do think that their overall scheme is going to be able to outwork Pitt here. Pitt is going to make this a very interesting game. Again, watch this one to be really, really close. But I do believe that Louisville is going to be able to escape Pittsburgh with a win. Again, stupidly tight game. But I do think that Miller Moss is going to be the difference there. Just taking a look at this secondary, I don't know that it would be able to quite cover everything Louisville might be able to throw from it from a passing standpoint this season, which is why I do believe that Louisville ultimately will get that win against Pitt. At home against Virginia, I mean, this is a Virginia team that feels like, look, they got to improve. They got to improve at some point, and maybe that year is very well this year. I just don't see them beating Louisville, especially not at home. Sorry, I went the wrong direction with my arrow keys there. So Louisville, look at this start. You're starting out 5-0, but this is where I believe the first hiccup is going to come. Now, a very weird scheduling thing for them as well. You get your first 2 bye weeks in the first 7 weeks. So you have a bye week in week 3, bye week in week 7. Then you got to play 7 straight ACC games. Or I should say 6 straight ACC games, and then your rival out of the SEC. Not going to be an easy schedule for Louisville to navigate here, but you do get the extra week to go on the road and get prepared for a Miami Hurricanes team that I still think is going to be a really solid group this year. I know that, again, there are a lot of people that are going to have questions about this team, that have questions about Mario Cristobal, but Carson Beck coming in to replace Cam Ward, while I don't think he's going to entirely fill those shoes, I'd probably lean towards Cam Ward than I would with Carson Beck. But if he can fix his issues at Georgia last year, get back to 2023 form, they got, I think, some really good pieces in the wide receiver room coming in to fill in what they lost, because they lost a lot of pieces. Mark Fletcher's going to come back and be your running back along with Jordan Lyle. Again, you do lose Damian Martinez, but still a lot of solid pieces in that running back room. I like all the transfers they brought in the secondary. And even though they lose some heavy hitters, especially on that defensive line, I think it's still very talented. Akeem Mesidor, Ahmad Moten, Ruben Bain, Wesley Basaint, now getting on into your linebackers, Raul Aguirre, however you say that last name. Again, I still think this is going to be a very good Miami team this season. I think they're going to compete for an ACC title. They might get very, very close to doing so. And I do believe that Miami, again, going to be another solid team out of the ACC this year. I think this one's a very, very close one, but I do believe that Miami is ultimately going to end up taking this thing here Friday night on the road. You really do see a lot of teams struggle with these Friday night road games, so I'm going to go ahead and side with the Miami Hurricanes on this one here. However, I do think Louisville is going to bounce back pretty nicely and get on a pretty nice win streak here to prepare for probably their biggest game of the season. At home against Boston College, yep, that's a win. They might be one of the worst teams in the ACC this year, and Tommy Castellanos is now over at Florida State. However, this road game against Virginia Tech, I think, is going to end up being very scary and dicey for Louisville this season. Why? Well, it's because I think Virginia Tech is going to be a pretty solid football team this year. You're going to have Kyron Drones coming back, the aforementioned Terrion Stewart is going from Boston College to Virginia Tech. Again, really good running back over there. The Hokies did bring in some really nice wide receiver pieces, as well as some really nice defensive pieces to add into some already pretty solid returning production. And I mean, look, especially if this is a night game, going on the road, playing in the Hokie football stadium, listening to Enter Sandman come in, and they are one of the most raucous crowds in college football. Blacksburg is not an easy place to play. I do think Louisville's going to be able to escape this thing with a win, though. I just think their run game may be going to be a little bit too dynamic, and offensively as a whole, Louisville could be a little bit more dynamic than what Virginia Tech is going to be. Even though again, Kyron Drones, good playmaker, I don't know that he's got the talent around him that Miller Moss does at Louisville, and I think the Cardinal defense able to outlast the road crowd there as well. You should be able to beat California as well. Fernando Mendoza is now going off to Indiana, where I think he's going to do exceptionally well. Hoosier football's not going away. Cal football, I think, will take a step back this year, and Louisville will win that game. Three really, really big ones, because right now, look, you're in week 12. You've only lost one game. According to me at this point, there are starting to be rumblings of college football playoff. The ACC title game stuff is coming back, and it especially will be enormously loud if you can get this win at home against the Clemson Tigers. However, I just don't see it happening. I think Clemson is going to be one of, if not the most talented team in the country this year. Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley, year 3, I think it's going to absolutely explode. Gideon Davidson, that freshman running back, again, 5,000 yards and nearly 100 touchdowns in his final 2 seasons. Yeah, he's going to be a stud. It's one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. And now that Tom Allen's your defensive coordinator, the hard-hitting, physical, disciplined defense will come back at Clemson. Not that I think it's gone. Some people out there did. If you thought that, yeah, it's coming back this year with Tom Allen. I think Clemson's going to be really talented this year. A tough one for Louisville to win. If Miller Moss has a really good game, I think maybe they can do it. But ultimately, I do see them dropping that one to Clemson, and almost spoiled my second prediction there. I kind of just did. I think they're going to drop this one to SMU as well. I think the Mustangs are still a really talented group. Kevin Jennings is going to be coming back. Got a lot of good running back and wide receiver pieces surrounding him. The defense, I think, is going to be pretty solid for the Pony Express this season as well. And much like Louisville, SMU, kind of like they were last year, still another really good contender for an ACC title last season. And then there's this one against the Kentucky Wildcats. Louisville was finally able to get over the Wildcat hump in the Governor's Cup last season after losing their last 5 against Kentucky and 6 out of the last 7. They did it in Lexington last year, and I think Louisville's going to be more talented than Kentucky this season. Now, Kentucky's bringing in one of the best transfer portal classes, but they lost a lot in the transfer portal. A lot of new pieces are in to try to adapt to this Mark Stoops system. Zach Calzada is that quarterback, and he just is not that impressive to me, not as impressive as Miller Moss at least. Louisville wins 2 straight against Kentucky for the first time since 2014-2015, and it leads them to a 9-3 season. Now, those 3 conference losses might very well push them out of ACC championship contention. However, a 9-3 season, a lot better than what many people are giving Louisville credit for this year. Again, if Miller Moss hits, this running back room is great. I think the wide receiver room is going to knock it out of the park. And even though the defense might struggle a little bit to replace some of the pieces that they did lose, I still think it's going to be a really good unit for Jeff Brom this year. Louisville hits the over on the win total. They finish 9-3. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.